Sri Jairam Rameshji.
I rise to speak on this not so profound bill, but profoundly dangerous bill. And taking a leaf from the chairman's book, being profoundly influenced by the chairman, this bill is a pill designed to kill, and it will kill the RTI. And let me ask the minister, who unfortunately is not here. So should I wait for the minister to come back?
No, you continue.
So I'll wait
please
for the
continue.
minister to come back.
He might have
Sir, I
come
would
to-
rather the minister
He'll
come back,
he'll
sir.
come. No, please.
I would rather that he come back.
Please
but
continue.
only he is in a
Please
position.
continue. Please continue.
Only he is in a position to answer the questions that I am going to
He will
raise.
reply to your questions.
But if you insist, I'll continue, sir. Sir, I want to ask three questions. What is the amendment all about? Why was the original section that is being amended introduced in the bill in the first place? And why are these amendments being introduced at this point of time? I want to ask these three questions. And since I was involved in the process of drafting of the RTI bill in 2004 and 2005, I have some historical knowledge of what happened. And I want to then raise three very quick issues: the importance of RTI, not blackmail or extortion, but actual RTI, which has made a difference to the lives of millions of people. And I want to then raise a rebuttal to some of the comments made by the Honorable Minister, which have been widely reported in the press in response to the bill that came up in the other house. So the amendment, what is the amendment all about? My learned colleague Abhishek Singhvi ji has already enlightened us that in essence what the amendments do is amend section 13(1) and amend section 13(5) of the RTI Act. The 13(1) sets a term of 5 years that is being removed, and 13(5) equates the salary and allowances with the Chief Election Commissioner at the center, the State Election Commissioner at the state. So this is very simple amendments. Some have called cosmetic, and I agree with my friend Swapan Dasgupta that these are not very profound. So why were these sections introduced in the first place? It's very interesting. So this bill was drafted and sent to the standing committee. The standing committee, those were the days when bills used to go to a standing committee. Gone are those days. The standing committee submitted its report on the 16th of March 2005. So the standing committee was chaired by Mr. E.M. Sudarshana Nachiyappan, and from the Lok Sabha, the BJP members, Professor Vijay Kumar Malhotra, Sri Harin Pathak, Srimati Kiran Maheshwari, and a couple of others. The Rajya Sabha members on the standing committee who took active part in the deliberations of the standing committee, the late Sri Bal Apte, a very learned member of the House, and Sir, Mr. Ramnath Kovind, who is today the President of India. And I myself am witness in 2005 to the extraordinary interest taken by Sri Bal Apte and Sri Ramnath Kovind in the finalization of the standing committee report. Sir, you will be interested to know that the original bill that was presented actually equated the Information Commissioner to secretaries to the Government of India. The original bill prepared by Dr. Manmohan Singh's government, salaries and allowances were equated with the secretary to the Government of India. However, the standing committee said, and para 24.3, I want to read this. The committee is of the view that the Central Information Commission is an important creation under the Act which will execute the laudable scheme of the legislation and will hold an all India responsibility for this. It should therefore be ensured that it functions with utmost independence and autonomy. The committee feels that to achieve this objective, it will be desirable to confer on the Information Commissioner and Deputy Information Commissioners status of the Chief Election Commissioner and the Election Commissioner respectively. The committee recommends accordingly insertion of a suitable provision in the clause to this effect. Sir, it was the standing committee in which we had very distinguished members, one of whom subsequently became the President of our country, which recommended the section in the RTI bill, which became an act and which is now being sought to be amended. And I'm sure with the numbers that the ruling party has been able to muster and the various telephone calls that have gone to various state capitals, they may succeed in actually passing these amendments. But let us understand that these amendments were introduced after months of deliberation in the standing committee, and then they became part of the bill, and Parliament then passed the Right to Information Bill, which then became the Right to Information Act. So, why are these amendments being brought about now? Well, very interesting. It's very important to understand that the timing of these amendments, it's not so innocuous, it's not so innocent. And I have here, sir, after reviewing RTI decisions, some of which that have already been alluded to by Dr. Singhvi, there are 5 cases which have propelled the government to bring forward these amendments. Sir, between 2003 and 2013, the Chief Minister of Gujarat would come to the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission would ask him uncomfortable questions on the state of health in Gujarat, on the state of education in Gujarat. Why is social development in Gujarat not commensurate with economic development in Gujarat? In 2014, the Chief Minister of Gujarat, who became the Prime Minister of India, and abolished the Planning Commission. Today, the Prime Minister of India is for these 5 cases. What are these 5 cases? First, the CIC ordered disclosure of the Prime Minister's educational qualification. It ordered disclosure of the Prime Minister's educational qualification. The matter is in the Delhi High Court. It's being heard today as I speak, or maybe it has already been heard. It was heard today. This is the first embarrassing case for this government. The second embarrassing case for this government, the Prime Minister claimed that 4 crore bogus ration cards were weeded out by his government. The RTI showed that the number of bogus ration cards was actually about 2.3 crores. And a correction had to be made by the Prime Minister to make that number commensurate with the parliamentary question that was answered by Mr. Ram Vilas Paswan. Third, disclosure on demonetization. It was the Chief Information Commission decision which revealed that less than 4 hours before the Prime Minister announced demonetization on 8th of November 2016, the Central Board of the Reserve Bank of India gave its approval. Sir, I am just quoting.
What is your objection?
I am not yielding.
Why?
I am not yielding.
सुन लीजिए.
I am not yielding.
Point
बाद
of
में
order.
जवाब दीजिए. सर ये क्या?
Okay, one second. Point of order.
Order. Rule 238(1).
Uncomfortable.
Rules to observe while speaking. A member while speaking shall not refer to any matter of fact on which a judicial decision is pending. If he says the decision is coming today evening, then it is a matter which is pending in the court where the judicial decision is pending, he can't refer
I
to
am
it.
not.
You have made your point. You have made your point. Please continue.
Sir, the first embarrassing case, disclosure of the Prime Minister's educational qualification. And since it's pending in the court, I won't expand on it. Second, the false claims made by the Prime Minister on bogus ration cards. Third, which I was reading before I was interrupted. 4 hours before the television announcement on demonetization, it is an RTI that revealed that the RBI gave its approval to the scheme but rejected demonetization for 2 of its key justifications: elimination of black money and counterfeit notes. The fourth embarrassing case to this government, an RTI inquiry revealed that the former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Dr. Raghuram Rajan, the minister may kindly listen to me and not look perplexed because these are all facts.
Please do not
It
mention
was an
anything.
RTI inquiry.
Don't
It is an
mention anything.
RTI inquiry. It's an RTI inquiry that revealed that the former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Dr. Raghuram Rajan, had submitted a list of NPA defaulters to the Prime Minister's office 8 months into his prime ministerial tenure. And sir, the fifth case, which is embarrassing to this government, that the Chief Information Commission directed the Prime Minister's office to disclose information about quantum and value of black money brought back from abroad. The Prime Minister's office has refused to share details of the quantum of black money brought back from abroad despite the CIC ordering its disclosure. So, sir, the real reason is not this false reason of parity with the Chief Election Commission. The real reason for these amendments is to make the Information Commission toothless, to make sure that these type of embarrassments do not repeat themselves, and the only way to do it is to convert the Chief Information Commission, the CIC, from an independent autonomous body to a toothless government Prime Minister's office directed body. That is the real business of these amendments. So, a couple of days ago, the minister defended these amendments, and while defending these amendments, said, we have strengthened RTI. We have given the RTI, the CIC, its own building. They have their own building, the minister said. So the minister is a very learned doctor. It does not take few months to build that building. That building took 5 years to build. And all the papers are here. I have all the details. When the land allocation was made, when the construction started, it goes back to 2012. So, Honorable Minister, you did not do the CIC any favor by giving them a building. That building was under construction. You were fortunate that the Prime Minister happened to be there when he had to go and inaugurate the opening of the building. So, to say that we have strengthened the RTI by giving the CIC a separate building is deliberate falsification of facts. Sir, a second point that the Honorable Minister made, one of the missing links is that there was no provision to frame rules in the RTI Act, which should have been there. So this is a completely erroneous impression. Section 27, I don't know whether the Honorable Minister has ever read the RTI Act. Section 27 of the RTI Act empowers the central government and state governments to make rules. We don't pass any bill without the power to make rules. And it's extraordinary that the minister says that one of the things missing in the previous act was the power to make rules. So, a third claim that the Honorable Minister has made, it is this government which introduced a portal for the RTI. Sir, the portal was inaugurated on August 21st, 2013 by his predecessor, Sri V. Narayanaswamy, who is now the Chief Minister of Puducherry. Sir, a fourth argument made by the minister in very eloquent language. He said, we walked an extra mile. There should be a leader of the opposition in the selection committee. But now, leader of the largest opposition party is a member. He made it sound as if he was doing us a favor. But instead of leader of the opposition, he had said leader of the largest opposition party. So when you look at the original act, the RTI Act,
Ramesh ji.
if you look at, sir, I'll take another
No,
2-3
no,
minutes.
No, 1 second.
2-3 minutes I'm taking.
No, I'm not asking you to conclude. You have another speaker. So accordingly you,
I'm just taking 2-3 minutes. Sir, if you look at the original RTI Act, and I invite the Honorable Minister's attention to section 12.3, what does it say? It says the Chief Information Commissioner and Information Commissioners shall be appointed by the President on the recommendation of the committee consisting of the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition in the Lok Sabha, and a Union Cabinet Minister to be nominated by the Prime Minister. Sir, the Honorable Minister has forgotten to add the explanation in the original Act. The explanation says, for purposes of removal of doubts, it is hereby declared that where the Leader of the Opposition in the House of the People has not been recognized as such, the leader of the single largest group in opposition of the government in the House of People shall be deemed to be Leader of the Opposition. This is in 2005. And the Honorable Minister tells the Lok Sabha that there was no provision for leader of the largest party. We are making this introduction. It's already part of the Act. So these are all misleading statements that are being made. And finally, sir, he has made a statement that we have left section 12.4 untouched. And that is the heart of the autonomy. So autonomy comes from appointments. And again, to quote our Honorable Chairman, the manner of making appointments lead to disappointments. It is the manner in making appointments that is really causing us concern. It is not so much the fact that there is already a selection committee. Of course, there is a selection committee. I would like to agree with Mr. Swapan Dasgupta that there is a selection committee. Unfortunately, sir, the selection committee deals only with the roster of names that are submitted to it. It's not a search cum selection committee. It's only a selection committee. And there's a fundamental difference between the two. So finally, sir, I would appeal to my friends who represent very important, influential, regional political parties. These amendments are not in a spirit of cooperative federalism. They are destructive federalism. And I want to appeal to these influential, important regional parties to stand up and be counted for state rights. They have been arguing for state rights. They have been arguing for the autonomy of states. And this amendment is going to determine the terms and conditions of information commissioners in various state governments. I can understand their compulsion, but once in a while, they must stand up for their convictions as well. Thank you, sir.
thank you.